Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
Oh, I was here. I don't know why my camera's not showing.
I want to put this
Hi.
document back in the chat.
Okay. Why is it on my phone?
Oh, was your phone near it? You have an Apple, right?
Yeah,
It does that.
that's
Mine does it every once in a while.
it's not even giving me this as an option. I'll be back.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
God, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
It's Thursday. One more day.
It is Thursday.
Cannot wait till tomorrow.
What's tomorrow?
I need a break. I've been sick all week, and finally Monday,
Oh,
my doctor decided after 3 weeks. I've been sick for 3 weeks. Um, but Monday she said, "Oh well, it's been 3 weeks. I guess we need to give you an antibiotic." I'm like, "Thank you." So I've gotten better every day since, so that's good. But it's
good.
exhausting. Just just want it over with. Oh, hi Lori.
Still trying to figure this out. Stay tuned.
Oh, something's on. Oh, saw your couch.
It's still from my phone. I don't understand. It's the weirdest thing. I hate Zoom.
Sign out of it on your phone. Hi Christine, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay for now. If I disappear, I'll catch up another day.
Yep. Hey Marcy.
How are you? I'm a few minutes getting late. You can tell I'm outside. I'm like getting home, so I'm behind on my routine.
That's fine. Ugh, this is just not working. Hi Georgie. Hi Holly. Mike to the rescue to fix my mouse.
Can Mike come over here too? Because I cannot get video working, even with my phone off. Mike, I need you. This is
I'll tell him to fly down. I'll fly down to Florida and help Lori out. All right.
Hey, Cheryl,
Yeah.
I just have a question quick. I was just on an up coach and I see the reading. I didn't see it till today because I haven't been on. And I see the required reading with access code to assessment or without access code to assessment. I'm
You don't
confused.
you don't need the assessment. You had it already. For those that
Okay,
didn't get an EQI assessment, you can take the one that's attached to that workbook. For those that already had one, you can just get the workbook without it.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And the workbook, sorry, it's all the chapter, what you're having listed as chapters, Cheryl, in the
No, I'm going to go over it. No, that's Emotional Intelligence 2.0, which is
Yeah.
it's a book for you guys to read from Travis Bradbury and what's her name, Janice something. Um, it just goes with the EQ 2.0, which is the assessment that all this material is based off of, emotional intelligence and the assessment. So that book is reading, it's part of your homework. And they have if you get the one with the access code, it's more expensive, but it's cheaper than taking the full assessment, which is over $100. And you'll get a report, and then we'll actually talk about that report that you get in our sessions. But it's it's totally separate. These chapters are my chapters, and that you're getting my material.
Thanks.
Oh, I didn't get not sure where everybody else is.
So quick question, if
Yeah.
we've done, so I have that book, I'm pretty sure, and I've done that assessment years ago. Is there a way to figure out how to get back in to get my assessment, or should I get a new book and retake it?
I would get a new book and retake it because your EQ can change from year to year.
Sure.
I
Okay,
get
thanks.
yeah, yep. I get mine done. Well, I used to get it done every year, but I slack a little bit now. Maybe every 2 years now. I like to see what I've changed and what I've worked on, and to see what the results are.
Cheryl, I'm looking now. Does this sound right? I'm looking really quickly, and it looks like I don't know if it's the book and the assessment, but it's $411. Does that sound right?
No,
Okay.
hang on.
Okay. Or if you're gonna send us a link, then I'm just not gonna try.
Well, the
let's-
link is in the up coach. That's what I'm going to go to right now, and I'll
Okay,
share my
okay,
screen.
cool.
Yeah.
Stop panicking.
Yeah, no. Let's see. So we're gonna share my screen. Okay. So this here, the 2.0 has the access code. It's $28. So if you just click that, it brings you right to it.
Okay. And sorry, can you go back into the platform? I know your platform looks different, but where in UpCoach is it? Is it in announcements?
Yeah, it's under the forum announcements.
Cool.
And if you've already had the assessment done, you can just go in and get this link here, and that's I think it's $14. It's on sale right now. And then this isn't required, but it's a pretty good complimentary book. All about, again, that EQI 2.0, all the scales and the subscales. I like it, but it's not required, but it makes it easier, I think, to actually look at the subscales and the scales and the subscales, which we're gonna be going over in class anyway, but I think it's a good resource. So that's those. Our recording's off. Anybody needed that from last week, and then this is
Last week you said that we were going to have to add a new class before the end. Have we decided when that is yet?
no, I was actually just going to bring that to the group to see what would be good. I mean, I was looking at potentially Tuesday, the 17th of June, just to put it in between the, right before our finals. I think what I'll do is I'll put a little poll on the forum and then everybody can kind of vote. We'll do it that way. But it'll be towards the end. I did meet with the ICF, so I do need that additional class, which is what I was thinking anyway.
My calendar just fills up, so I need to get it on my calendar now.
Yeah, I'll put it up. I'll put the poll up this week and you guys can vote on it and we'll determine it. All right, so I really don't know where everybody is. So I'm just going to go around real quick and just ask. So this is our first group mentoring, by the way, this class. So I'm going to be pulling up the PCC markers. We're going to go through those PCC markers. You are going to need your evaluation forms. We're going to be listening to an example, a demo coaching session, and I'm going to assign you each a PCC marker. You're going to look for that marker in the demo, and you're going to take notes on it and put your opinions on it, and then we're going to discuss it afterwards. But I do want to go over.
Cheryl, the evaluation form that you referred to is the observation form, the one like what
Yes.
yeah, okay, got it.
Yep. So I'll pull up the PCC. Lost it. Very hard to do that while you're sharing screen. So let's look at it this way. But did anybody have any questions while I'm looking over here? Anybody have any questions from last week?
Sorry,
Muted
Cheryl, I
Joe
wanted
G.
to ask you about thank you, about the calendar, and I know you're working on it, but maybe I'm not reading correctly. I thought you said you were going to add in the calendar. There are some days where I think we're not meeting. I'm not sure if you change it or not, or I'm still being not smart enough to understand it.
No, I did change it, and I'm uploading the schedules tonight, the coaching schedules, and so you'll see it all blacked out on that.
Okay. So when it's blacked out, it means that we're not having these group classes.
Yeah, we're not having any classes. You're just doing your peer coaching.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yep. Let's try it this way. It keeps giving me the old ones, and I want the new ones. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're gonna go through the. Oh, look, I did have it open on the other screen. We're gonna go through the PCC markers. These are the updated ones, and of course, this is what we look for in your coaching and what we're going to be learning and working towards in this class. So I will share my screen. The other thing, I don't know if I said this last week, but the ethics are being updated April 1. They're going to be launched. So we will actually have an ethics piece to one of the classes to go over those because that's going to show up in your written exams. So we want to make sure we go over the new ones as they're launched. Typically, when they update these things, they're not terribly different, but sometimes they change language. And so, the written test will have the language of the current and not the previous. So those are things that we have to look out for. So we will have that in one of the classes as well. Okay. Valerie. Okay. So if you don't know what the PCC markers are, by the way, these are indicators that assessors look for, that we're trained to listen to determine which ICF core competencies are present in your coaching sessions and in your recordings that we assess. So your final exam is the recording that we assess, and we definitely look for them. And then, of course, your in-class coaching, we're going to look at, and then your peer coaching. You're going to have the peer coaching, and then we're also going to have a couple classes where we're going to just kind of go over what you've done in your peer coaching. So, if you have questions or, I'll ask some of my own questions about like what was done and maybe what was not done in your peer coaching. So we want to start paying attention to these markers. And that's why you're going to be using those observation forms, because they're going to get you used to looking at those markers. So they help us to identify areas of growth and areas that you're doing well in already. So the first one, ethical practice, that's not really assessed in recordings, except to say that if you step outside the role of a coach. So if you're doing therapy or you're, teaching or mentoring or what have you, and you're not coaching, that would violate the, the ethics. But other than that, they're not assessed in your coaching. That is assessed in a written exam. Competency 2 is the same thing as far as there's no specific competencies for this, but they flow over into other competencies. So there are some markers listed here. By the way, this is in your drive in the UpCoach, so you can download this document. But for instance, when they're assessing competency 2, they're looking at 4.1, 4.3, 4.4. So competency 4 plays into competency 2, as does 5, 6, 7. They all play into a bodies of coaching mindset, but not specifically like these are going to. So if we look at competency 3, establishes and maintains agreements. The first one there, 3.1, coach partners with the client to identify or reconfirm what the client wants to accomplish in the session. 2 is the coach partners with the client to define or reconfirm measures of success for what the client wants to accomplish in the session. 3 is the coach inquires about or explores what is important or meaningful to the client about what they want to accomplish in the session. 4 is coach partners with the client to define what the client believes they need to address to achieve what they want to accomplish in the session. Now, if you have the SCE coaching model, you'll see that we address each of these competencies in that model. And so the 4 questions that we have in the beginning of the model cover these 4 markers. And so we've done our best to align that sample, that model, to make sure that you're, able to cover these as much as possible, cover these as you go through your coaching sessions. 4.1 is acknowledges and respects the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process. 2, coach shows support, empathy, and concern for the client. 3 is coach acknowledges and supports the client's expression of feelings, perceptions, concerns, beliefs, or suggestions. Coach partners with the client by inviting the client to respond in any way to the coach's contributions and accepts the client's response. 5, maintains presence. 5.1 is the coach acts in response to the whole person of the client, so the who of who they are. 5.2 is the coach acts in response to what the client wants to accomplish throughout the session, so that's the what. 3 is the coach partners with the client by supporting the client to choose what happens in this session. 4 is the coach demonstrates curiosity to learn more about the client. And 5 is the coach allows for silence, pause, or reflection. And then 6, the actives listens actively. The coach questions and observations are customized by using what the coach has learned about who the client is or the client's situation. So that's more like not using those generic questions that you might have in a, a default question list or something. Even the questions in the model, they're just for reference and for you to make your own. 2 is the coach inquires about or explores the words the client uses. 3 is the coach inquires about or explores the client's emotions. 4 is the coach explores the client's energy shifts, nonverbal cues, or other behaviors. 5 is the coach inquires about or explores how the client currently perceives themselves or the world. 6 is the coach allows the client to complete speaking without interrupting unless there is a stated coaching purpose to do so. 7 is the coach succinctly reflects or summarizes what the client communicated to ensure the client's clarity and understanding. 7 for evokes awareness. 7.1, the coach asks questions about the client, such as their current way of thinking, feeling, values, needs, wants, beliefs, or behavior. 2 is the coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond their current thinking or feeling to new or expanded ways of thinking or feeling about themselves, so their who. 3 is the coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond their current thinking or feeling to new or expanded ways of thinking or feeling about their situation, so the what. 4 is the coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond their current thinking, feeling, or behavior toward the outcome the client desires. 5 is the coach shares with no attachment observations, intuitions, comments, thoughts, or feelings, and invites the client's exploration through verbal or tonal invitation. 6 is the coach asks clear, direct, primarily open-ended questions one at a time at a pace that allows for thinking, feeling, or reflection by the client. 7 is the coach uses language that is generally clear and concise. 8, the coach allows the client to do most of the talking. That's that 80-20 rule, basically. And then competency 8 is facilitates client growth. So the first one there is coach invites or allows the client to explore progress towards what the client wanted to accomplish in the session. The coach invites the client to state or explore the client's learning in the session about themselves, so the who. The coach invites the client to state or explore the client's learning in the session about their situation, the what. The coach invites the client to consider how they will use new learning from this coaching session. The coach partners with the client to design post-session thinking, reflection, or action. The coach partners with the client to consider how to move forward, including resources, support, or potential barriers. And the coach partners with the client to design the best methods of accountability for themselves. The coach 8 is coach celebrates the client's progress in learning, and 9 is the coach partners with the client on how do they want to complete the session or close the session. So these are our markers, and this is what we're looking for throughout the recordings and your coaching sessions. I do recommend that you download that if you have not done so already. Hi, Kim. And, something that you want to look at, occasionally throughout the course, especially before you're coaching in class, before your peer coaching, and then obviously when we go to do the finals, that'll be something that you want to use as a study tool. And then when you go to take your written exam, which will be core competencies, but I also recommend that you study the markers, not just the competencies for that. Okay. Hi, Marcy. So what we're going to do now is I have a recording. She's having problems, I guess. I have a recording that we're going to listen to, and actually it is Kim's recording, and we're going to listen to it. I'm going to assign each of you a competency, and you're going to use your observation form, which I will pull up, and you're going to pay close attention to that one. You can, of course, pay attention to other things as well. That's fine. But at the end, we're going to have a discussion, and I'm going to call on you guys to share your observation based on that marker. So let me do it this way. Um, let's see. Okay. I'm just gonna kind of go in order. So Holly, I'm gonna have you do 3.1. And then, let's see, I should write it down. One Holly, and then Lori, you're 3.2. Kim, I'm going to give you one anyway, where you're going to do 3.3. And Georgie, I'm going to give you 3.4. Christine, I'm going to give you 4.1. And Valerie, I'm going to give you 4. I'm going to give you 4.4. And then Marcy, I'm going to give you 5.3. And then Karen, I'm going to give you 6.1. Did I get rid of everybody that's in here? I think so. Okay. All right, so that's what you're going to look out for. And let's get the recording up. And play. Can you guys hear it? Okay. It was timed out. Can you hear it now? Let's try it this way.
Charlotte, are
That's
you
not.
clicking the audio when you do share?
Oh, that's a good question.
So there's a share sound
Yeah,
box.
it's on the right. So let me make sure I did that. There it is. Share sound. See if that works.
Just like to do a little bit of housekeeping.
Alright.
Is that all right with you?
Okay,
Yes,
let
it
me back
is.
us up a second.
Okay.
Oh,
Is it playing
Hey,
right now,
Cheryl.
Cheryl?
I'm
I don't
sorry?
hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Oh,
Neither does Karen.
I don't either. And we can see your
Okay.
screen, but it says
Yeah.
gateway timeout.
oh, so who can hear it? Nobody can hear it?
No, we
Nope.
could for a minute, Cheryl, and then you stopped it, I think. So you might need to share and do that thing all over again before you start it again.
I mean, I just stopped it just now. You weren't listening all that time? Oh my gosh.
No.
Okay. That's weird. Why would it do that? All right, let's try it again. Okay, it says share sound.
Sounds like maybe the conversation's going
Can
off
you hear
your
it?
topic.
Yes.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
How would you like me to interrupt you? What would be the best way?
Hmm. Just say something. I don't mind, if you overtalk me to redirect me because, yeah, I'm one of those, I've been told I ramble and I know I do. So it seems all important in my head, so it just comes out. So, yeah, just if you talk over me, it'll be fine and say, hey, Janet, let's reassess or redirect. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Okay, and so before we start, is there anything that you might need to address so that you are fully present here for your session here today?
I'm going to take a drink as soon as I find it. And then I'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. That's good that you take care of yourself. What is really important for you to talk about today?
My sister's funeral is tomorrow. And I want to be comfortable going to the funeral, knowing that I can, how to say it, how I'm doing what I need to do, and how it affects everybody else in my family who can be quite judgmental, and I don't know what they are, but well, I do know what they are, but um I want to, and even with my spouse, I want to be on an even keel and not let myself get so upset over things, because I know I do that. Just, and this is a tough situation, you know, with my sister dying, and I just need to. I can rest when I have her in the vault. This is this is important, but I need to make sure my sister's in the vault so nobody else can hurt her. So, and I'm carrying all this tension with me in case, you know, something goes wrong. I don't know what could go wrong at a funeral, but you know, um, yeah, there's a lot of high tension. I don't particularly, I call her husband exactly that, my sister's husband, because of various reasons. And well, I didn't even care enough to call to see if he's out of the hospital to go to my sister's funeral. So I need some techniques, or I need to feel like capable. I am capable, but I don't want the tension to creep up and me have to take an anxiety pill or something, you know. So I want to be self-aware, I guess. And like right now, the closer it gets to, you know, the day of, I can feel that tension building up. And it would be nice to be able to be like even at right now, maybe a 3 or 4, you know, that I have the confidence that I'm not going to tell my brother, sister's husband exactly what I think of him. And that's not productive for anybody. But you know, I just want to be able to have some, like I said, some techniques, or talk it through, or examine it and why I feel that way. And so I can go in tomorrow feeling better. And I'll know that, like I said, like right now I'm at a 3 on that feeling, 3, 4. And if I'm at a 6 or 7, I'll be fine with it.
Okay,
So
wow. Janet, you know, you sure shared a whole lot there. And I would like to take this moment here, if it's okay with you, to um, to reflect back and to offer an observation. Is that all right with you?
yes,
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that you're going to have to go to this funeral of your sister's, and you have this buildup of this, like it feels to me like an anticipation of something going wrong, you know, during this burial of your sister. And um, you, you know, can't trust yourself with her husband, your brother-in-law, because you have some deep feelings there that um, you might want to express. And so you want to be able to go in there feeling even keeled. And so what I observed was, you mentioned that this was really important. And when you said that, your voice cracked just a little bit. And it seemed like there was a bit of an energy shift there. Was that a correct observation?
yes, it was, because I just want my sister to have a nice funeral, and she's free from pain now, but to be protected from any other harm. I don't want any bad vibes at the funeral, out of respect for her. That is what she deserves. And I'm worried that I'm going to bring a bad vibe in myself, and I don't want to do that. So that's probably what you heard was right there, that I'm worried I'm going to be the one doing it. So
You mentioned even keel. What does that mean to you?
even killed that I'm aware of what I'm feeling, and that I can recognize the emotions and accept that just because they're there, I do not have to act on them. I can, honor my feelings, but respect my sister at the same time, kind of thing. So it's just maintaining control to me is even, I'm going to cry, but that's different than what I'm talking about, but, so I can maintain a presence, or, yeah, that's just even, not too high in emotion, but not showing no emotion at all. Because I want to be in the middle. I like that middle ground. So it even kills that middle ground. So
What would you like to walk away with by the end of this session?
I would like to walk away with the knowledge that I am capable of doing this, which is my thing. You can't do that for me. I realize that, but and maybe some sort of understanding that will stick with me of why I don't have to act on my feelings, why it's okay to have them, but I don't have to express them at this point in time at the funeral. I can do that later, at a later time, if I ever see the man again. And he's the only, well, some of my sisters, two of my sisters are there too, and I have this little need to always get their approval. So I don't want to do that either. I just want to be comfortable in myself and do my thing, which would be even killed, So all these little family problems coming in. I've been working on them, but not with the people in the room. So I have to watch my behaviors that I don't slip back into behaviors I no longer want to do. So
Okay. So just so that I'm clear, you also mentioned earlier that you were 3 or 4 with your confidence level, and that you would like to come away with being around an 8. Was that correct in hearing that?
I'll be good with a 6 or 7. 8 would be awesome. I mean, if I could come, yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. And you just mentioned also too, just being able to, come away with a better understanding of your control of your emotions. Is that correct? Did I have that right? Or
Well, yeah, because I'm in a point in my life where this is gonna sound weird, but I am now just learning to express emotions and to be able to recognize them, because I've always stuffed them or whatever. So I'm at this very tenuous stage, needless to say, where that because I'm just learning about them, I want to act on them. But I also need to learn that sometimes it's not okay to do that, depending on the circumstances. And does that, yeah, I was going to ask you if that makes sense, but I think it did, so I don't need. So
So
that's it.
what's that questioning about yourself all about?
Um, just my upbringing and my life up to when I was 50 and dealing with my siblings and everything. I've always tried to be like, I want them to like me because I never felt they liked me when I was growing up. And they all like excluded me. And so I overextend on trying to belong or get them to include me and stuff. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that feeling that that I need to belong, you know, that, yeah, along those lines. Because I know that I don't need that. Because I mean, I'm good just as I am. And it's their problem if they can't reach out to me, not mine. So, which is part of the tension, I guess, all this family stuff.
Yeah. When thinking about going to your sister's funeral and what you just shared right now about how you question yourself and it's based upon, wanting to belong, like have your siblings accept you. Is there a connection with this?
Um, I think so, in that Shirley always supported me, and she's the one that passed away. She always supported me, and did not do that what the others did. I chose to break away from her for just her spouse and things that he did, and she did not stand up for her children. So, but she was always loving and everything whenever we would see each other and everything. And I have a special bond with this sister, whereas I don't with my others that are going the two that are going to be there that are still alive, you know. So I just so I feel like I owe it to her to maintain myself. And I don't know. That doesn't seem to coincide though with what I thought it was. That I don't want to. I am of the belief that in spirit she will still be there. She is still with us and stuff. So, and I don't want her to be upset at anything I do. And that would be you not being myself. Because she was supportive of me doing my own thing, of going to college, of, anything I was interested in doing. She was supportive of that. And I just want to, I don't know, support her and respect her by being able to act appropriately. Not the way that I feel like I should, but to act appropriately, be myself to honor her kind of thing.
Okay. So, um, may I share a perspective?
Yes, please.
I'm just wondering if there's a conflict within being yourself and acting appropriately.
You know, there may be, because I like to, now I like to tell people as it is, as I'm, you know, tactfully, hopefully, not always, but, you know, that I don't want to have to withhold my emotions in order to be nice to my brother. And that I feel that's childish, but I've held it in for so long, and my sister's no longer alive. But out of respect for her, I need to. And her boys will be there too, so I don't want, you know, they don't need to know how much I dislike their father. So,
May I offer, I'd like, to invite you to do a bit of a visionary activity here?
cool, yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, just closing your eyes just for a second, and I invite you just to take a couple deep breaths.
Okay.
Okay. And so now, just when you're visioning, preparing for this day to meet with these people at this funeral, what would your authentic person bring to this day?
It would bring a weariness that I feel with my family. I think just greet them, tell them hi, I love them because I do love them, and just, I don't know. I want to interact with them, but only so far because you know, they've hurt me too much. So I don't want to be fake. I just want to be able to interact with them and not get caught up in whatever they're being going to be caught up in tomorrow. And that's just, I just want to be able to breathe, say goodbye to my sister in her human form, you know, and be at peace. Then I know that she's at peace finally. And there's no more I can do to help her. That's what I want. I just want it to be peaceful and no drama. Which is that's the authentic me. I don't like drama. I don't like gossip. I don't like all that stuff. So just to honor who I am by not participating in things that I don't want to.
What might you need to let go of in order to show up with your family there so that you're at peace?
I really think I need to let go of my anger at all of them, you know, past, present, future of things I know that they will do. And that I shouldn't be thinking that I know what they're going to do, but based on past behavior, you know, because they'll be just to let go of expectations. of any expectations of anything to do with them. That's what I need to let go of.
What would
Because
that, oh,
I know, yeah, I was just gonna kind of ramble on about, no expectations and stuff. So thank you for stopping me on that. Because it's not productive.
yeah. So what might that do for you to enter in with no expectations and to let go of your anger?
I think I can be at ease. I cannot have to worry that I'm going to lose it with my brother-in-law. That I can respect my sister, make sure she's put to rest in a way that I see fit, because I've been protecting her since I was like in 10th grade, just this one final act in her honor, and then I can let that go. I can let that go. So, and I just went to, you can't enjoy a funeral, but you cannot dread it too. So I don't want to dread going to my sister's to have to mingle with my family. I just want to be there for my sister that died, not the other two.
Yeah. You've shared a lot about your feelings, around anger with your family. I just want to check in with you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I think it helps to talk about them, because when I verbalize it, it kind of is like a release for me. So I just, yeah, I can feel like the tension going down. So that's good. That, I realize now what I want, because before all I could think of, I just don't want to be what they want me to be. I want to be myself. And it's more deeper than that, I think, than I thought at first. So I just went to go there and do my thing and spend time with my family, because I do love them, no matter how oddball or whatever word you want to use about them. They are dysfunctional. Dysfunctional. That's the word for them. You know, just enjoy having their company, but have no expectations for the future. So I don't get hurt, because it is hurtful. You put, and it's not worth it anymore.
Sounds like this has been something you've been carrying around with you for a little while.
Yeah, yeah.
I would like to acknowledge you for sharing that here today. And I do want you to know that, with me being here, being quiet, that is my way of holding space for you. And, you mentioned that you realized it was something deeper. With that realization, how does that affect you?
Actually, it makes me calmer, because I know what it is. I know what I need to do, not entirely, but now I've got a better idea of what mindset, frame of mind, however, I choose to put it when I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Just what mindset I need to be in. And it's not dependent on them. It doesn't have to be dependent on them. They should expect nothing from me. I mean.
So what is that mindset that you have going forward?
that um, I just need to be me, that I'm a good person, and if they want a relationship after this, there are no expectations of that on my part. That it's probably going to be the next funeral before we see each other, if whatever. But not to have any expectations feels really good.
And what does that do for you?
That circular thinking, but it puts me in a better mindset.
Yeah. And so when you are in a better mindset, how might that affect your emotions and the tension in your body?
I can let go of the tension because I'm not trying to hold it in, trying to keep it under control. And yeah, just realizing that I don't, they have no right to have any expectations whatsoever on me. And I can just be myself. And if they don't like it, they don't have to talk to me.
And how does
So
that feel to say that out loud?
that feels good, actually. That
Yeah.
feels good.
Yeah, it looked to me like I was observing some relief there with your laughter. Was that correct?
That is correct. Yes. Because, yeah, and I'm not even so worried about spouting off my brother-in-law now. So the time will come. The time will come. I just have to wait for it to present itself. So
So at the beginning, you mentioned that you wanted to, go from a 3, 3, 4 to like a 6, is what I think you mentioned. How are you doing on that right now?
I'm doing really good. I think I'm like at a 7 on that. So that is, I feel just so much better and more relieved and less tense that I was open enough that we could dig into it and figure out what it was, actually what it was, instead of, the surface stuff. So that was really helpful to do that.
How are you going to take this information moving forward into your daily routine?
I think I will apply it to my spouse and to my family that resides with us, and that, I can be myself, and if they don't like me, they can not come into my space. Childish saying, stay out of my space. It's mine.
Yeah. How does that feel to say that?
That's nice to
Yeah.
realize that I really do have my own space.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do want to, recognize you and acknowledge you for the work that you've done to put yourself as a priority. We're coming down to a crunch here. And so, what I'd like to ask you are, um, what considerations might you have to think about in executing your plan moving forward with being at peace?
I need to recognize and explore those feelings when I'm feeling that way and know that it's not surface, that I need to go deeper to figure out the real meaning, and then that's going to make everything else easier. Once I figure that out, it will be a good step to do just in regards to anything. I mean,
Okay. What would be the best way for you to be supported?
just I think having a talk with my spouse and just trying to explain to him how I feel. So he doesn't base it on past reactions or, think I'm upset because I'm a certain way. I just need his support in letting me be me and not worry about it because I'm okay.
And how are you
So
feeling about your accomplishments here today?
I'm feeling pretty good. Sorry, I'm feeling pretty good. So
Wonderful.
yes, thank you.
Before leaving here today, what might you need to express so that you can leave here feeling settled and ready to transition into the world?
So I'm gonna tell myself that I do matter and that I do know what I need and it's okay.
Telling yourself that you do matter.
Yeah, yeah. I got my tattoo right here. I am enough, right on my arm. So I always know that. So
Okay, and so what else might we need to address before we stop our session?
no, I think I'm good. I think we addressed even the subconscious things that were, you know, taking place in my mind. Yeah, that's what it is. Mind.
Well, I want to acknowledge you for showing up for yourself here today, Janet. And it was a real pleasure being here with you. Shall we end our session on that note?
Yes, I think that's a good plan.
Okay. Well, looking forward to next time, Janet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
You're muted, Cheryl.
All right. You guys can come back on, please. And then thank you so much, Kim, for allowing us to use that recording. So first, just kind of general thoughts before we dive into the observation form. First, who thinks that this was a PCC recording? Okay. Marcy, one reason why you think that was a PCC recording.
Yeah, I mean, so I felt like she had a good flow and she did a lot of reflecting back to the client. She also, right, they set a goal up front. She, before she was going to share an insight, she always asked that and made it that, which I thought was critical. Instead of just sharing her opinion, she asked to have the right to speak into that space. She let herself discover, and I felt like, I mean, other than the times when she asked otherwise, for the most part, she reflected back what sorry, I get stuck with the client. I always want to say employee, but the client was feeling. And so, and then, you know, I even at the end, she brought back up the scale of what she wanted and asked how she felt about moving forward.
Good, thanks. Georgie, how about you? What made you think this was PCC?
Do you want me to respond based on the 3.4 or like the
Sure.
competence or
Yeah,
okay.
it could be
So it
that.
took me a while. It was really tricky. Like if I was listening for that, just holding in the attention, like what does a client need to in order to accomplish the things she wanted to accomplish. And it was really nuanced, right? Like she was going all over different places. So it took me a while. And what I captured from that was kind of at the end. And you had talked about this last time that they're not always in order like that. But if I got this right, what I think that I understood is that towards the end, she ended up getting the realization that there's something deeper. That she wasn't entirely sure what she needed to do, but she was clear about the mindset she needed to go into the funeral with. And in order to get that, she needed to not have expectations and tell herself that she matters, which I thought was a beautiful insight at the end of the call. I don't know if Kim, was that you coaching? Was that? Yes. So I'm not sure if I got curious if you did that, if you asked that question at the end, like just wanting that kind of part of the markers to be addressed, or if it just came spontaneously. Ultimately, both are beautiful. But I thought that was really beautiful because she was getting into that space, right, of finding the conflict between her real self, her authentic self, and how she needed to show up. And there was a distillation of what that actually would look like and what she needed to do in order to get there. And I think that statement at the end, tell herself that she matters, was really beautiful. So I captured that really in the letting go of the expectations as a 3.4. And then the other things that caught my attention were the regular check-in, like, may I offer a suggestion? May I check in? The collaboration, really in partnering with her and creating the thing.
Yeah, good. All right, thanks. Okay. Those that don't think this was a PCC, tell me why. Give me one reason that kind of stood out for you. And then I'm going to tell you what it was. Go ahead, Valerie.
Well, I didn't find my marker, and I don't know, how many specific sub numbers there need to be, and I could have just missed it, or I might have been too literal in looking for it or something. But and I don't know them well enough to really speak to them all, but I also thought that it was important, and maybe this doesn't have to be in everyone too, but I thought it was important to ask when someone's gonna intend to do something, what might get in their way and how might they overcome that? And so that was the thing at the end. Sorry, is this better? I might have been blocking my speaker.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so that
So
was just,
obstacles.
that was just one thing that I thought should be included, but that I might be still in the ACC mindset.
Yeah, so by the way, I found your marker. So we do have your marker. But it's nuanced. Like Georgie was saying, there was a lot of nuance in this conversation. But you're right about the obstacles. So obstacles were not mentioned in here. And that is something that we want to make sure that we, explore at some level. That's not going to fail you at a PCC level. So when we look at and when we go to do our finals, you'll know how many of these markers you have to hit for each one. But typically, like the first, like just for the agreement, you have to hit 3 out of the 4, and you have to hit 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. I think it is. Let me look real quick. In order to pass it. So there's specific ones that you have to pass and a specific number. So it's not.
So out of the 8, we have to pass 3, and specifically 3.1, 2, 3.
No. So out of the 8, first of all, 2 we're not going to assess, right? 1 and 2 we don't assess. So you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 6 of them, or 5 of them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 6 of them. And you have to hit some on each of them, right?
Mm.
But not all of them. And so that's what we're going to learn as we observe these and as you get your feedback. What are the ones that really stand out that we make sure that we hit? Because that's just going to help our clients be more successful, and that's going to help us grow our coaching skills. And then when we get to the final, you'll have more of a specific outcome to look for.
Cheryl, can I ask you in that what happens or how it's, the hitting the markers, how is that evaluated when the client, which I think happened here and specifically on this last question we're talking about, when a question is not asked, but the client just goes there alone. So even though Kim didn't ask her about the obstacles, I heard obstacles in what the client was saying, relational, historical, mindset. They were built in, but they weren't addressed as a question.
Right. So the coach doesn't get credit for that.
Right.
But it influences the coach, right? So in this case, that's probably, I'm just guessing, why Kim didn't ask a specific obstacle question is because Janet worked through them on her own, right? But so the coach doesn't get the credit for that, but they don't get a negative either. It's not like it's, it's not a strike against, but this is a point. Like when we're looking at specifically passing, it's a points game. But I don't want to get to I don't want to make it a points game for you guys throughout this course. This is about enhancing the different areas that we can as coaches. And in this case, I think it was, if I was the coach, I would not have addressed obstacles because Janet worked through them.
Mm-hmm.
So, not everything's perfect, not a perfect world. But we try to do our best. I will say this was a PCC passing recording. I'm going to share my screen and well, first, actually, before I do that, let's look, if you can, Holly. Holly's not feeling well, but if you can, Holly, can you tell me about 3.1? If you can't, that's fine as well. Just let me know.
I mean, she was great at going through, asking a lot of questions leading in, which definitely made it a PCC instead of just getting straight to what would you like to walk away with. But after Janet had said everything, Kim acknowledged all the feelings and said, that was a lot of feelings. I just want to acknowledge them. And she asked a more poignant question about what does even keel mean to you? So helping her to focus in more on what she was looking to get out of the session.
Mm-hmm.
And she reconfirmed, like, Janet was at a 3 and she said she'd like to be in an 8. Or maybe that. But I think right at the start, by acknowledging all the feelings that Janet had just shared and giving those value, and then trying to whittle down what does even keel mean to you.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Lori, 3.2.
So I also had the even keel for 3.2 because she wanted, when we talk about her measure of success, the fact that Kim went into really getting clear as to what that looked like, I felt also was part of that conversation. And then she wanted to come away with a better understanding of like her emotions and how to control them. And also, there was a scale for her confidence level. So she said she was at a 3 or 4 and she wanted to feel more like a 6 or 7. And if she would get to 8, she would consider that being an awesome coaching session.
No. Okay. Good, thanks.
And just for, I know we're going to cover this, so you could tell me not to ask this question right now. But my understanding between the ACC and the PCC, what made this, for me, in my opinion, what made it a PCC, and I was on the fence about it, right? And that's why I kind of sat back on this one. But I think it's also, I felt like Kim really was speaking to Janet and not what she wanted to accomplish, right? Like more about her being as opposed to what she wanted to create. So as I kind of sat through it, that's what came up for me on it. And so it
Yep.
would you say that that's what really makes it a PCC thing as well, or?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. That it really kind of what you're saying and what I would add is that, so Kim made it all about Janet, right? It wasn't really about Kim. There's a couple instances, I have some examples where we want to pull back even more, but Kim really pulled back a lot, right? And made it all about Janet and where Janet wanted to go and how she was feeling and the direction that she wanted to go into. And kept the focus on the client. And that made all these other things fall into place. Where if she hadn't done that, it would have easily pulled attention away from these competencies and she would not have been able to, exhibit them. So the kind of a lesson here is like the more attention that we put onto the client and the more we allow the client to lead, the more success clients have and the easier our job is as a coach, because these other things flow naturally, versus trying to force it by saying, oh, I have to ask this question to get this marker, or I have to get this question, ask this question. So the client, walks away with an outcome or a measurement or, whatever. Like there's things going on in our head, right? When we're trying to coach. And because we want our clients to be successful, but the more we focus in on that stuff, the less effective we are as coaches. And so that's kind of where I see that Kim was not real, most of the time was not focusing on herself and what she was accomplishing. She was focusing in on Janet. And that can take you far in a coaching session. So just to speak to 3.1 and 3.2, those were both exhibited. And the example would be that Kim had said, what's really important for you to talk about today? And what would you like to walk away with by the end of the session? And then some supporting things like you mentioned that you would like to come away with a better understanding of your control of your emotions. So those were things that were going towards that 3.1. And then 3.2, just that I'm clear, you also want to mention earlier that you were 3 or 4 in your confidence level and you'd like to walk away with come away with around an 8. That was the specific measurement from the conversation. Now, some things to think about. There was so a couple of times Kim says, just so I'm clear. So this is a little bit of a nuance for coaching, right? In a PCC level. That's focusing on us as needing to be clear, right? It's focusing on our clarity. And yes, we want to be clear, but it's not about us. So these are the couple of places where I would say we need to pull back, where Kim would pull back as far as it's not about our clarity, it's about the client's clarity. So instead of saying just so that I'm clear, you also mentioned earlier you wanted to be a 3 or 4, whatever. We could say something like, I want to make sure that you're clear, because it's about the client being clear and not about us being clear. You said you wanted to, you're at a 3 or 4 and you wanted to be at an 8. Does that feel right to you? Right. So Kim's shaking her head. Yeah. So it's putting it back on the client, right? It's not about our clarity. It's about the client's clarity. Now with the client's clarity, ours flows with it. We don't have to put ours first and hope the client's flows from our understanding. We want the client's clarity and understanding to come first, and then ours flows with that. That's the main thing to kind of think about. Okay. So that was kind of the growth opportunity on the whole coaching agreement part 3, or marker 3. The other thing to think about is, so 3.4, which I think Georgie was talking about, was where we partner with the client to define what they believe they need to address in order to achieve what they want to accomplish in the session. So another growth opportunity here is that even that question that was asked down at 35 minutes and 23 seconds, which is the one that Georgie was talking about, it uses language that's similar to 3.4, but it's iffy, right? So this is something to consider. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask, because yes, I get that. And I also think that if, not making it about Kim, but making it about the client, if Kim would have tried to rush into like, what do you need to do that thing or to feel that way, we might have bypassed or missed the nuances or the pieces that she discovered by herself. I think that, the experience that you led her through, or that Kim led her through, that brought up then the childhood memories and experiences. That is what enabled then for her to say, well, ultimately, I think, what I owe to my sister, so then now this is what I need to do. But if we would have rushed to ask the question, what do you need to do there? I wonder if the client would have gotten there by herself.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid. So these are the things that we have to kind of consider when we're looking at, how do we coach the clients? Who's the focus? And, it definitely taking it off of us and putting on the client is going to be the best way. And the client is going to come up with their own awarenesses and answers when we allow them to be the leader and we don't take that away from them. So we want to be really clear for 3.4 on making sure that we are putting it right into the client's hands. And the best and easiest way to do that is to say specifically, what do you need to address in order to achieve this outcome, whatever that outcome was? The simplest way to do that. And then we put it right into the client's hands. Okay. Barry, you had 4.4.
Yeah, and I let me guess at what I think it might have been. May I?
Yes.
I think she said something like, "Thank you for being silent in response to me when you needed to be," or something like that. I didn't know if that was sort of a giving permission to respond any way they wanted to. That was the one thing I wasn't sure.
I think that probably could have been, but I think the more, well, for me anyway, the more obvious one was when we asked the client, is that correct? Do I have that right? I like the is that correct versus do I have that right? But and I'll just give you my example here. So Kim says, before we start, I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping. Is that all right with you? That's partnering with the client to inviting them to respond to that, right? She can say anything. No, it's not all right. I don't, envision that, but that could be it. Are you comfortable with me interrupting you? It's asking a question and allowing the client to respond in any way. And then I would like to take this moment here, if it's okay with you, to reflect back and offer an observation. Is that all right? Again, putting it back to the client. And then may I share a perspective? Again, we're putting it to the client and asking the client to respond to that. And then the actual observation, when thinking about going to your sister's funeral and what you shared right now about how you question yourself and it's based upon wanting to belong, have your siblings accept you, Is there a connection with this? So it's an observation with a question to the client to respond to that in any way that they see fit. So those are kind of specific examples that I pulled out. Does that make sense to you, Valerie?
It does, but it's not at all how I interpreted this. And so I have to really be careful about when I hear inviting the client to respond in any way, I'm I'm thinking there's more of an explicit, like it's okay to, you don't have any obligation to me, like I want you to feel free to take or not take anything I say. I don't know. I read it differently. And
I mean, I
and
think that's part of it too. I'm not discounting that. I think that's part of it too. I think it's, um, I think if a coach says that, then that shows at least partially that marker, and it would depend on the context, but these other things are also ways to do that. The other thing to consider as well is that, okay, so these were things that, were said by the coach, but instead of saying, is that correct? Again, it's about us being right a little bit, right? We want to maybe consider a different way of presenting that to the client. So something like, how does that resonate with you? Or what would you add or subtract from what I heard or what I said? And then, yeah, with what connection might there be, if any? So by saying, is there a connection with this? It's still, I mean, it's a good question. It's still a question, that's putting it to the client. But by saying, what connection might there be, if any, then we're saying that doesn't have to be a connection there, right? And we're just opening up a little bit more for the client. If you can see that difference a little bit. Okay. Marcy 5.3.
Yeah. So I saw this throughout because I felt like they set a target kind of up front. I felt like this coaching was a little bit like an onion. So I think the coach did a really good job because I feel like in different places, I feel like her overall goal sometimes shifted, not significant. I mean, it's shifted just a tad, right? Like it started in one place, and then as she started to uncover her feelings with the coach, then it shifted. So there were a couple places. She talked about not telling her sister's husband what she thinks of him, and she reflected back on that. I didn't write exactly what she said in that place. She did say at one point about a connection and wanting to feel supported. After she had talked about feeling excluded. She asked about bringing her authentic self. And so she reflected even that word of being authentic back to her that she had shared during the coaching. And she even at one point reflected, and this wasn't, I think she was kind of connecting things for her when she said shared a lot of your feelings towards your family and anger towards them. So there were a multitude. I mean, I think throughout she did a really good job of all of those pieces then tied back to that initial goal that she had to be able to attend the funeral. But it was like peeling back. Like I felt like we were on one path, and then all of a sudden the coach or the client would bring out something else, and she just went with her because it was in line and it wasn't significant enough that I felt she had to reset the goal. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think like you're using the peeling back the onion, the layers. That's the thing, right? Is that these layers are still part of that original agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you unpack things, you're gonna come up with things that are, hopefully linear to the agreement. In this case, they were. But yeah, so and the examples that you gave me, for me anyway, kind of go towards really that curiosity, right? Every time the client came up with something, then Kim was curious about it and came back with a question. So that was definitely demonstrated throughout the session. And then, yeah, what you said as well towards supporting the client. The other piece, though, for evidence for this is to think about when we allow the client to choose the direction of a session, it could be something as simple as saying, where would you like to go from here? That's like right out there, straight up front. we're putting it right back to the client to say, which direction are we going to right now in this conversation? So that's a very straightforward way to do it. Some things that Kim did to help the client choose what happens that's not as obvious, I don't think, is things like, are you comfortable with me interrupting you? If I feel like maybe the conversation is going off topic, that's putting the client in control, right? Do you want me to do that or not? How would you like me to interrupt you? What would be the best way? These are things that the client can choose happens in the session and how they happen. And then again, anytime she's like, may I share a perspective? I'm wondering if there's a conflict. We're putting it back into the client to choose what happens from that point in the session. But the areas for growth in doing that is being very upfront by what I said first, which is, where would you like to go from here? That's a very direct way and clear way to have the client lead the conversation and determine what comes next. The other thing is, and this goes back to what I said in the other competencies as well, or the other other markers competencies. There are times when the language that Kim uses is based on her, right? So things like, I'd like to cover what your comfort level with challenging is in the session. So that's not a bad thing to do, because that's allowing the client to choose what happens in the session and how things happen. But we need to watch how we word things, because in that case, again, it's kind of about what Kim thinks or Kim wants to know or what have you, versus putting it back to the client and putting on them and saying, what would you, and it's just the way we phrase it, right? It's just rephrasing the question. What would you like me to do if I feel like you're going off topic? Or what would you like me to do if you start to go off topic? I won't even put the I in it. Just what would you like me to do if you start to go off topic? That puts it right onto the client's hands and mind, and we don't have to worry about what it does for us. And then even when, if you don't mind closing your eyes for a second, I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths. Now, she asked permission first, so I'm not saying that this is wrong, right? But I'm saying there could be more enhanced ways of doing it, better ways of doing it. So you could ask the client straight out, what would be a good exercise for us to do right now that would allow you to envision the outcome of this funeral, or whatever the case is. So just being able to put again, using the language that most empowers the client and doesn't look at what we think or feel or want to do in the session, right? So sometimes when we do things, we can hit that competency, but there's maybe better ways, right? More enhanced ways to do it. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. Karen, 6.1.
I think that Kim did a really good job with bringing the client's wording in when she asked the question about whether there was a conflict between being myself and acting appropriately. I also noticed Kim pick up on the client saying that her mindset had shifted and asking what the mindset now is, which seemed to be customized to where the client was in the conversation. I think there were opportunities in both the agenda setting and the closing to pull in more of the client's wording. So things like, I don't remember the exact questions that you were asking, but there was a question about like, what do you need to get to that goal or something? And substituting in words about what the goal is would have customized that question and allowed for more sense that it was back and forth.
Yeah.
There were similar examples in the closing, but I didn't write down specific ones.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. again, Kim had these perfect examples for the competency, but we want to watch how we say things. It really comes down to the words that we use and I guess the intention behind it. But there's some examples where I'll give you some examples where so Kim says, just so I'm clear, you also mentioned earlier that you were 3 or 4 with your confidence level and you'd like to come away with being around an 8. Was that correct? Or our question or observation is customized to what the client was mentioning earlier, right? So it's the client's language. The client wanted to come away with that higher confidence level, and that was the words that Janet used. And then like when thinking about your going to your sister's funeral and what you shared right now about how you question yourself and it's based upon wanting to belong, have your siblings accept you. Is there a connection with this? So she reflected back using that language again. She observed and captured what she learned about about Janet's situation and thoughts on the situation. And then another question, what might you do to enter in with no expectations and let go of your anger? She's noticing that anger that Janet articulated and using that language and the expectations around it for Janet. So these are all good, positive ways to do that. But again, so just so that I'm clear, we want to remove that, right? We want to say something like, you didn't even really need to say that at all. You could just say, you mentioned earlier that you were at a 3 or a 4 with your confidence level. What would you like to come away with? And you'd like to come away with being around an 8. Does that sound correct? If you want to use that correct part versus saying, am I correct? And another one is where I'm wondering if there is a conflict within being yourself and acting appropriately. Again, it's I'm wondering versus putting it onto the client and just stating, like, you don't even have to start with the I'm wondering or if or use an if. You can keep it pretty open-ended. Again, picking up what you learned about the client and the situation so far and saying, what kind of conflict is there between being yourself and acting appropriately, if any, right? You can always put that if any at the end. You could make it a closed-ended question. We want to ask open-ended questions as much as possible, but in your ACC training or your initial training, you're told 95% of your questions have to be open-ended, and there's only like 5% left for your closed-ended questions or whatever, right? You're taught. The reason why we do that in the initial training is because you have a lot of habits to break at that point, right? Because you're coming into coaching new and you have to learn to ask open-ended questions, and open-ended questions are going to get you further as a coach at that stage. At the PCC, it's a little bit different, right? We do want to continue to ask open-ended questions, but it's okay to ask those closed-ended questions if they're powerful and if they honor the client and they're client-centered. So don't be afraid of closed-ended questions, but obviously you want to stick with open-ended as much as you can. Okay. Some other things on this call. And actually, let's take a break, and then when we come back, I'll share my screen and I'll just kind of go through my feedback or my evaluation on this form. But any questions about what I've covered and what you guys have kind of brought up so far? Kim, how are you feeling? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a quick question. I know you said that the markers or the were checked or assessed on 3 to 8, but not the first 2. And so this recording, it sounded like it started there. Will that be the case for the recording we present? Like we don't have to present the first part?
Well, really, 1 and 2, 1 is not. Shouldn't be part of your recording.
Yeah,
shouldn't be a part of your recording anyway. Really, that ethical pieces are usually on your consults, right? So yeah, we don't even look at one or two for assessing.
Okay, I think maybe, I don't know if I didn't hear right, but or if it was intentional or was part of the sound glitch we're having at the beginning. I didn't quite catch the like the start or the housekeeping parts. And so I'm wondering if that was intentional for presenting this type of recording.
Oh, no, I think it's, she just started. That's how she started.
Okay,
It
okay,
wasn't, I don't think it was intentional.
okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then Kim, how are you feeling with us going through your recording?
I really appreciated it. I really loved that. Thanks, Cheryl. Because like it gave me some really in-depth looking into the coaching style and gives me a lot of reflection and how I can improve. So it's always about improving. So I
Okay.
appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. And I'll go through the rest when we get back. We're going to take, what is it, 8:13? Let's take 12 minutes and we'll come back at 8:20. Is that right? 8:25. Yeah, 8:25.
Hey Cheryl, while everyone's coming back, did you figure out what I'm doing wrong in the system that I can't get to the chapters?
No. But I did want to ask you, have you logged out and then logged back in?
Yeah, but I can try again.
Yeah, try again. And then, I mean, I could put a support thing in and they could probably look at it and see.
I didn't know if pictures helped.
Yeah, I did. I saw the red thing, but I didn't know what that meant. Unfortunately. But yeah, if you still can't, the other thing is also I can unupload it and re-upload it and see if that's helpful. I don't know. We'll see. And then if not, I'll do a support ticket. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. Did I think I removed, that's not what I want. I say, I think I removed some of these things, but I'm sharing the wrong one. So let's stop that and share this.
My video still doesn't work and I restarted. Just so you know, I'm here.
It's still on your phone?
Yeah, and it just doesn't work. Like it won't work for my laptop. It doesn't even give me the option to switch it. And it's so weird because I used it last class and I don't know.
Yeah.
I might uninstall and reinstall Zoom after this. So sorry I'm
Yeah.
not on camera.
That's okay. It's like it seems like tonight's not the night. Everybody's just kind of blah-ish, and hopefully next week, guys, we're all on video and everybody's feeling better and all that stuff.
Well, it is a full moon, so you know how that goes.
I will tell my lady bits to stop working next week.
Do that, please.
Okay, I'm on it.
All right. So, so I am going to show you, well, that's why I had the other one up. I was going to show you, oh, here. So at the end of each competency on the evaluation form, it tells you, now this is ACC, so don't pay attention to these exact numbers, but I'm showing you this. This will have the PCC numbers there, but it says how many points you have to earn for, like this one, in this case is 1 point for markers 4.1 and 4.3, and then 1 point for markers 4.2 and 4.4 in order to pass that competency. Or those markers, same thing. And then what we do is at the end, we add up the scores. Oh. And you get the point value. And in this case, the total points was above the PCC requirement of 30. The ACC one is 21. So that's how it's just a straight up scoring system based off those two things. Okay. So I just wanted to we kind of went over 4 pieces of 4. We didn't really talk about 5 too much, so I just want to go over that. Really quickly. So Coach acts in response to the whole person of the client, so who they are. And Kim did that very well. She reflected back. You wanted to be able to come walk away with a better understanding and your control of your emotions. Is that correct? Do I have that right? What's that questioning about yourself all about? So responding to the things that Janet brought up that showed who she was and what she was thinking about who she was, right? So when thinking about going to your sister's funeral, what you shared right now about how you question yourself, and it's based upon wanting to belong, have your siblings accept you. Is there a connection with this? Again, it's responding to who Janet is or who she perceives herself to be. Sometimes that could be the case. And then what might you need to let go of in order to show up with your family there so that you're at peace? So helping her clear the things that she said she wanted to be at peace. You shared a lot about your feelings around anger, checking in with you. How are you doing? So again, it's just responding. We respond to what the client says about themselves, thinks about themselves that we can notice. And this might also be about challenging the client sometimes when we act in response to the whole person. Some main thing really here for the feedback here, where the question, which isn't even on here, the 1040 was asked about the client shared vulnerable personal details. As a result, the question at 1040 comes across as unresponsive to who the client is in that moment. So the client shared that she's aware of and accepts her emotions, respects her sister, and desires to find a middle ground. So a more empathetic response, and empathy is going to be a big thing we focus in on with emotional intelligence, would be to kind of build on what the client said so that it kind of flows more naturally into a question. So a possible approach might be, I can hear how important it is to you to honor your feelings and respect your sister. How might those feelings and respect impact what you like to walk away with by the end of the session? So again, it's just changing a little bit of how things are worded and putting it back to the client. And then acting in response to the what. What's really important for you to talk about today? What would you like to walk away with at the end of the session? These are all ways to, respond to what the client wants, their what's. And then you mentioned also too, being able to come away with a better understanding of the control of your emotions. Is that correct? Do I have that right? Putting it back to the client. Again, keeping in mind what I already said about potentially changing how we are saying these. And then how are you feeling about your accomplishments here today? How are you doing, right now? These are ways to help the client better through the 5.2. Now, this first column means it was demonstrated consistently. This second column means that it was demonstrated, but maybe not consistently. And the third one is not demonstrated, just so you know what these check marks are. So 5.3, coach partners with the client throughout by supporting the client to choose what happens in the session. So we talked a little bit about that already when Marcy was shared hers. So we have lots of examples of what she did, and then we talked about the growth opportunities. So I'm not going to go over those again. And then coach allows for silence, pause, or reflection. That's done a lot through the conversation. Kim gives a lot of space when she coaches. So there's just opportunity, or there's just the times noted here, but just a kind of suggestion here was that when the client requests time to find her drink, consider utilizing silence even more fully. So instead of responding, okay, evaluate whether the client's comment necessitates a response. So we don't have to respond to everything, right? Sometimes it's just letting it go. And that gives extra space for that client, extra silence there. It's just a thing to think about. And we went over 6.1. Coach inquires about or explores the word the client uses. So 6.2, you mentioned even keeled. What does that mean? That was a perfect example for that. Coach inquires about or explores the client's emotions, so their feelings. What might that do for you? If you let go of that anger, you've shared a lot about your feelings around anger with your family. How are you doing? When you are in a better mindset, how might that affect your emotions? How does that feel to say that out loud? How does that feel to say that? So there's ample opportunities or ample examples of that opportunity as well. Coach explores the client's energy shifts, nonverbal cues, or other behaviors. Again, this is like some were shown, and then there was more that could have probably been shown. So Coach you mentioned that this was really important when you said that your voice cracked a little, and it seemed like there was a bit of an energy shift there. So we're looking at those energy shifts or nonverbal communications, like, if somebody shrugs their shoulders or, or maybe they look up at the ceiling or, whatever, like we're looking for other things as well. And, again, the coach mentions, observing some relief with your laughter and saying, is that correct? So other things to kind of demonstrate the observation instead of saying, was that correct? Might be to question about that, what you're seeing, instead of asking if it's correct. Right? So that's more exploratory. So instead of telling the client that their voice was cracking seems like a shift, consider a simpler approach that allows the client to interrupt. For example, you mentioned that this is really important, and when you said your voice cracked a little bit, what meaning might there be with that? Or what might your voice cracking mean for you or mean to you? I noticed some laughter right now. What does that laughter represent to you? Or simply what's coming up for you right now? Different ways to do that as well. Coach inquires about or explores how the client currently perceives themselves or their world. And this was definitely done several times. What's that questioning about yourself when thinking about going to your sister's funeral? What you shared about how you question yourself, and it's based upon wanting to belong, have your siblings accept you. Is there a connection with this? May I share a perspective? I'm wondering if there's a conflict. What might you need to let go of? These are all ways that the coach has inquired or explored the client's current way of thinking or perceiving themselves and their world. Coach allows the client to complete speaking without interrupting, unless there's a stated coaching purpose to do so. So the coach did respond quickly to the client in a lot of the cases, right? And throughout the conversation, accidentally interrupted once. And, I tend to say that, I tend to hesitate to even say that, because really the coach was speaking and the client interrupted. But technically, there was something more that Janet wanted to say. And so even though Kim had started when Janet was silent, it wasn't enough silence, because Janet obviously wanted to come back with something else. And that's something that I talk about, in the foundations classes, is that, give that extra 5 or 10 seconds, because you don't know if the client's finished their thought, or if they're trying to think of something else and then they go to say it and you've moved on with another question. That shifts the whole it could shift the whole conversation. So that's something to consider as well. I'm not going over all these, obviously. The coach succinctly reflects or summarizes what the client communicated to ensure the client is clear about and understand themselves. Lots of summaries and reflections were observed, basically done effectively. And then an example of somewhat a demonstration here is where, although this was, what I note here is that it was a lengthy response and it appears more like repetition. So you have to watch summarizing what did Matthew call it? You don't want to do a grocery list. So when you're, is that what he said? When you reflect back, you're not sitting there, reading or checking off this grocery list, right? You want to get the essence of what the client is saying and reflect that back. That's what we're looking for. So when you are reflecting back, look at summarizing and really pulling out the most important things that are going to shift or move the conversation forward or shift the perspective if that's the purpose of it. So we just want to be careful of that. And then for Evokes Awareness 7.1, coach asks questions about the client's current way of thinking, feeling, values, needs, wants, or beliefs, or behavior. Again, done in several different areas. But, I'm so delighted to spending time with you. Before we start, I'd like to get a little bit of a housekeeping. Is that all right? How would you like me to interrupt you? What would be the best way? You mentioned even keel. What does that mean to you? You shared a lot about your feelings and your anger. How are you doing? All ways that we're checking in with the client to make sure or to see where she is with feelings or wants, needs, that kind of thing. Coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond the client current way of thinking or feeling. Excuse me. So they're who? What's that questioning about yourself all about? When thinking about going to your sister's funeral, what you shared right now about questioning yourself, wanting to belong, having your siblings accept you, is there a connection with this when you're visioning? Preparing for the day to meet with those people at this funeral, what would your authentic person bring to this? What might you need to let go of in order to show up with your family there? It sounds like this has been something you've been carrying around with you for a little while. I'd like to acknowledge you for sharing it here. And I do want you to know that with me being here, being quiet, this is my way of holding space for you. With that realization, how does that affect you? What does that do for you when you are in a better mindset? How might that affect your emotions and the tension in your body? So tons of examples here for 7.2. And then 7.3, the coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond the current thinking or feeling to new or expanded ways. So when thinking about going to your sister's funeral, what you shared right now about yada, 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 is there a connection to that? What would your authentic person bring to this day? How does that feel to say that out loud? And then coach asks questions to help the client explore beyond the client's current thinking, feeling, or behaving toward the outcome that the client desires. So with that mindset, what in that mindset that you have going forward, what does that do for you? When you are in a better mindset, how might that affect your emotions and the tension in your body? What considerations might you have to think about in executing your plan moving forward with being at peace? So different ways that was shown as well. And then there are some things to look at for improvement about asking clear, direct, primarily open-ended questions one at a time at a pace that allows the client to think, feel, or reflect upon the question. Now, there's lots of open-ended questions here. These are all examples, so I didn't write them all. There's a lot there. There are a few closed-ended questions. Let's see, what are there? 9 of them? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That might be a little bit much, but I think there's a lot of open that offset any of that. There was 2 times where she stacked just 2 questions, not terrible. So there are 35 moments in this session where the coach asks or attempts to ask a question. And, in these moments, the coach uses roughly 57% of open-ended questions and roughly 43% closed. Now, that's because we have this figured out like this, right? This is a numbers game here. Remember we talked about that. So if you can keep them more open-ended, that percentage, of course, is going to go up. And again, we're not focusing in on like it has to be 95% or 90%, but you do want to ask more open-ended questions than close-ended because typically they're going to get you the better results and your client the better results. And then coach uses language that is generally clear and concise, demonstrated throughout the session. Now there isn't, now this I wrote this in here as an example, or actually this was Matthew's note, but I actually know that this is just how Kim talks, just because I've known her for so long. But yes, language was generally clear and concise, and there was lots of space. But the note here was that sometimes the coach pauses between random words when responding to the client. This can give the impression that the coach is being overly cautious or thinking too hard about the next question. So it could be nervousness. It could be, you know, it was because there was a recording and evaluation, but actually I think that's just the way Kim talks. So take that with a grain of salt. Coach allows the client to do most of the talking. So there is no, what we're noting here is that there is no specific measurement that we, like they don't say it has to be 80%. But there's an 80-20 rule that all of us use, and that's the best rule to follow. 80% of the time, your client should be speaking, 20% of the time you speak. There's give in that, but your client should be doing most of the talking. This ratio was 72% that Kim spoke, and 28%, I'm sorry, 72% of the client and 28% with Kim. So that's, I mean, it's still within the acceptable. And like leaving that space for the client where neither of them were speaking also. So anyway, that's my feedback on that. Questions about that?
How do you decide between 1 point and 5 points? Is it like how many times a person's hitting it?
No, the points are if it's hit, period. So if there's five markers underneath a competency, each marker has a point.
Okay.
So it's just a straight adding.
Got it.
What else? I'm going to go around and ask you guys to give me some kind of your thoughts or insight into what I just kind of, or something that you maybe didn't know, that like an awareness, something you didn't know that kind of stood out for you as I went through this and really kind of highlighted these markers and how they were presented and how there might be improvement. I'm just going to go across my screen. Karen?
I think my biggest takeaway from today is that the being careful around use of the word I in how phrasings are presented.
Yep. Okay, good. Kim?
Yeah, that's the same for me too. Just keeping it focused on the client and rewording phrases so that it's, yeah, consistent with the client.
Okay, good. Thanks. Georgie?
Similar there with the I think what stood out for me where I kind of almost blushed is when you said don't start with I'm wondering. I am naturally curious and I asked that question so many times. So that was like, ooh, I get the idea, but so that'll be a interesting behavioral change.
Yeah, some things are just habits, right? Because
yeah,
I mean, I'm curious too. And I'll tell you what, I used to say we a whole lot.
Mm.
And now understand that we is not that great to use in coaching. So, I mean, it does create a co-working type of situation, but it's not really about co-working, right? It's about the client. So, sometimes we just have to shift our belief around something.
Right. Yep.
Thank you. Marcy?
Yeah, mine was along the same lines. So it was in two places. It was the feedback on how to shift it to the client deciding how they wanted to visualize that day. And so it's those simple, subtle shifts, I think. And some of it is just the language. Instead of saying, "Did I capture that correctly?" Instead of saying, "Is that accurate?" So just taking the I and the we out of it. It's just asking the question without that.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. Valerie?
Well, as always, I'm realizing that I need to practice being more of a coach, because for people who don't know me, I'm a consultant normally. So there's that. I think the open-ended versus closed questions is good to know that it's not so strict. I think I'm in a better habit, but I just get so uptight and trying to dot my I's and cross my T's. I have to find the balance of keeping it somewhat natural, being a curious coach, making it about the client without getting too stiff and wanting to be too proper and make sure I'm hitting all the markers. So
Yeah. Yeah, good. And good point. And that's why we don't really talk too much about the points right away, right? Like, I don't want you sitting there worrying about, oh, am I getting these 3 points or these 4 points? No, are we having an evolved conversation? Am I expanding my coaching skill here? Am I expanding or helping my client to expand their, their goals or their understanding or whatever the case is? And then when we go, gets down to the nitty gritty, then I'll give you a formula. But thank you. Holly?
Yeah, mine was the same as far as like the I questions. I think just need to start listening more to everyday conversations, just like when we were learning open-ended questions and trying to ask open-ended questions. I think what I need to do start improving that some. So I thought really good insight.
All right, great. Thank you. Lori?
I felt like I was seeing the man behind the curtain, to be honest. I absolutely love seeing the scoring because it helped me really get clear as to um like to evaluate myself, and the fact that you even have a percentage of, I think I remember this now from the first time around, but the percentage of closed versus open, like that really helps me identify what it needs to look like on the scoring end. Not that it's going to freak me out, but it gives me an awareness around for somebody like me that's super intellectual, I need to like analyze all that stuff. So for me, it actually really, really helps.
Good.
So thank
Good.
you for that.
You're welcome. All right. Okay. Well, thank you all for that. It was a little intense, but I think it gives a lot of insight for us to be able to do that. Kind of look at everything like that. So for next week, chapter 2 is already uploaded. If for some reason you cannot download it, I'm trying to work with Marcy. I don't know if it was just her. And not that I want it to be her, but hopefully it's just her, not everybody. But if you can't download that, we are trying to fix that up. The other thing is I'm going to put a poll on the forum about the 17th being that extra class that we have to add. Hopefully that's the Tuesday before our last class. Hopefully that works for everybody. If not, maybe we'll go the week before, but I'll put both dates up there, but I really want it to be the 17th. So you can kind of vote on that. And then I'm also going to be, I actually have Lori and Holly checking my schedule, but as soon as they do, I will upload the peer coaching and the in-class coaching schedules. But just so you know, for next week, Karen is coaching Marcy and Christine is coaching Kim. So Marcy and Kim, please have topics. And then Karen and Christine will have 30-minute coaching sessions that we will all be observing with the observation forms, and I'll be giving feedback. Okay, any questions about any of that?
The files in UpCoach don't appear to have a chapter 2. There are 2 different level 2 chapter 1 files uploaded.
Interesting. Okay, let me pull that up really quick. Once we have a minute.
Thanks for making me not be alone, Karen.
Okay, so if I go into,
You
so
wanna
it's not in the, let's see.
I was just gonna say, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Um, well, now I don't even see it there. So it was there with a little red question mark next to it, but now I don't even see that, so I'm not gonna share my screen. I'm just gonna re-upload it. And then hopefully you guys will be able to download it. Now, what we noticed last time for some reason is that some people had to log out in order to see something. Once, if you're logged in and I upload something for some reason, some of you have to log out and then log back in to see it. So make sure you log out tonight. I will upload everything, and when you log back in the morning, it should all be there. If not, message me, email me, whatever, and we'll work it out.
Cheryl, I have another technical question. I don't know if this is similar to what Karen was asking, but I'm in there now, and I don't know. It took me a while. I'm in the level 2 PCC path, and then I see the course materials, and there's like class 1, group mentoring, class 2, class 3. And each one, like I did the assignment for class 1, and then when I go into group mentoring, when I click on the left-hand side, they say group mentoring 1, class 2, class 3, but then on the actual main page, what shows up just says class 1. And the questions are around the emotional intelligence, self-reflection, mapping and all of that. So are we supposed to be doing that now? I'm
No,
confused.
that's for the next class. That should be under class 2.
Okay. Okay.
And
I see. So
so,
that would be homework for that day or after then?
yeah, that'll be for next Tuesday, next Thursday. But
So
remember,
we
you don't have to do these assignments now. They're due at the end.
got it. Forgot. Thanks.
I'm
Yeah.
having a really hard time keeping track in UpCoach of what I'm supposed to read when and which assignments I'm supposed to do when. And like, it feels like there's 8 different places to look for things, and it all feels really chaotic. Do you have suggestions about how to have like a single place that tells me what do I need to be doing right now?
So the best way to look at it is, well, let me log in and just show you this way. So for the individual class materials, you have to go into here, into the course. So here, this is the course. You click on the modules. Oh, then you hit, well, you would probably already started, but, and then right now we've only had class 1, which we've already done. And it tells you, it has the material that goes with it, and it has the homework assignment with it. And then we had group mentoring class 1 today, which just, again, well, see, now that's where the problem is right there. Yeah, so this has actually the second one. So I'm just gonna put that over to the second one. I don't know why that came up like that.
Yeah, this is what I was referring to.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be anything under class mentoring too, actually. And why it says start the lesson, which doesn't make sense to me.
I guess I just want to give you the feedback that the platform seems to be getting in the way of my learning and engaging with the class instead of helping facilitate it.
Yeah, so again, this is a pilot, and so there's going to be some bumps, but we did use this successfully with the level 1. And so typically what you have to do is just come into the class number, which all the classes have numbers except for the groups. The group mentoring is separate, and you should be able to come right in and see the material and then the assignment. So, but it's not ahead, right? So because we're doing things incrementally right now, you'll be able to, for instance, I'm going to fix the level 2, chapter 2 right now, as soon as we're done. And so tomorrow when you log back in, you should be able to come right under class 2. It's going to have the file, it's going to have the assignment, and it'll have a little bit of a bullet points of what's in there. And you should be able to do that every week. You should just be able to come in and go under each class number, and each class number will have the homework assignment and the material with it.
I thought
From
you
the-
said, go ahead, Georgie.
No, it's just that I was having the same, Karen, but I think I just get it there, like just clicking on that at level 2 PCC path, it goes straight into all the assignments and the things that we need to do.
All right.
And the one thing that was that I felt made all the difference is every time you go into a class, so like class 1, and then next week we're going to do class 2, you have to start the lesson in order to make stuff available to you. That's I think that'll be really helpful once you guys kind of start flowing through that. It'll become more intuitive at that point.
Right. Unless you start the class, which again, you don't see from my end because my login is different than yours, but it says down here, a little box comes up and it says start this lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to click on that start this lesson in order to access anything in the lesson itself.
Yeah.
So like this is class 2, right? And you're saying you can't click on that and download that, but there it is. So I knew it was there. And then that's the assignment, and that's just a summary of what the chapter is. So that's what you should see every time you come in and you hit the start the lesson, and then you can access it.
Cheryl, can you go out and come in? I don't even know where you're getting. On my left, I have class recordings, but I don't even know where to get. Yeah, so I don't. So
when you
yeah,
first come in, this is the program itself, right? So there's 2 levels. This is the program. Under the program, you have the course, which is here, and then you have your recordings down here. And then if you keep going, you'll see the farm where all the announcements are. And this drive just takes everything that I'm uploading in the lessons, and then also gives you extra material. I will tell you when you have to come here. Otherwise, everything really is in the course level. And then these are just links to get to the class, each class. It's just the Zoom links. You don't have to use those, right? And then the assignments show up here, but I wouldn't even worry about the tasks. I would take the assignments from the course level, right? But this is just an overview of the whole program. You do need the forum because you need to see the announcements. You need to download the homework and the schedules and that kind of stuff. And then you need to look at the recordings if you have to, if you miss a class or whatever. But really,
how did you get that other one on the left where you had class 1, class 2, and
here? So see here, this is the course, right? It says course. You're going to click here to access, and then you're going to click start. And now you're in the course. And then you see here, do you want to start this lesson? Every time that you want to start something on the left that you have not accessed already, it's going to say start this lesson. And then you're able to access the materials. And you can navigate down here as well, but you can also navigate on the side. So this is all your materials for the course as far as chapters, homework assignments, and recaps. The higher level is where you're getting recordings, schedules, anything extra that needs to be done. So that's what you kind of have to look at. There's 2 pieces. Look at the full program for the extras, go into the course for the actual class materials.
So
is that easy? Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
I think it's so it's interesting, Cheryl. I'm just gonna, so I teach the SHRM prep class for the HR certification. And I feel like the first 2 to 3 weeks, people are a little, right, because you're trying to figure out the layout and the core. I think it's kind of as I'm sitting here, Cheryl, watching this, I feel like it's kind of normal because
Yeah.
you're just trying to learn the flow and you're trying to figure out where everything is. But I think by next week or the week after, then it'll be pretty seamless. It's just spending time in a different learning platform.
Right. Thank you. And that's exactly what it is. It took us a couple classes last time, I think. Lori, Holly, Kim, I believe it took a couple classes, but once you understand it, you get used to it. It's pretty simple. You just have the high level with kind of all the extra things, and then you come into the course and you have all the course materials in here. So hopefully, again, maybe by next week or the week after, it gets a little bit more easier. And then, of course, starting the lesson, like Lori said, becomes a little bit more easier to navigate as well, and more intuitive, I guess. But that's really all you have to do is hit the high level for the program and come into the course level for your materials.
I thought you said last week there was going to be some kind of fillable document for all of the assignments. When should we
Yes, but
expect
it's not
that?
now. Yeah, it's going to be a couple weeks. I have to finish the course to get all the assignments. Once I'm finished the materials, then the assignments will be put into the assignment workbook, and then you'll get that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. It'll get easier, I promise. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you guys back here next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See